So in the last class, we have gone through the differentiation between database and data warehouse. In general, differentiation between OLTP systems and OLAP systems. OLTP systems are nothing but online transactional processing systems, and OLAP is nothing but online analytical processing systems. So basically, we might have n number of source systems. As I said, an example for Adidas. So we might have multiple source systems, and we have to do some analysis, right, on top of multiple applications data. So that's the reason why we have to store. If we have that complete information in one single database, that helps a lot for the, for doing some analysis. Okay, that is the reason why we have this life cycle of data warehouse. So we have multiple applications like database 1, database 2, or as I said, we have different databases. Different applications data will be stored in different databases. Okay, and even we may have, I just said only ATM is an application, but when you consider only ATM related data, you might have different ATMs, correct? Different branches, different locations, and you can do some transactions in different databases. Different locations. So these kind of information, right? So the ETL, they are going to get the data from. The business is going to provide the data for the ETL team using .csv files. Okay, basically the best format to load the data is .csv. CSV is like, right, comma separated values, similar to Excel, which is a CSV. So they will extract the data, they'll do some transformations and load into one single database called as data warehouse. Clear all? So, and any questions still here? So the example for ETL tool, let's consider, let's say if in one of the interviews, or let's say in any project discussion, they might ask like, hey, what is your database, right? Database is like they're asking like a data warehouse. Okay, so generally we do call as database in real time. Hey, what is your backend database you're using? You can tell any of the database, so you don't want to hesitate, right? So you can tell that, hey, we have like Oracle or SQL Server or Teradata or MySQL. So you can tell that database, my data, we are using Oracle as a database. That's fine. And do you like sometimes they will ask like, hey, what is your what is the ETL tool you are using in your project? You might not work in the ETL, but what kind of ETL tools you were using in the project? You can tell like Informatica is the tool, the ETL tool which they are following this process like extraction, transformation, and loading. Okay. At least any tool, you can tell any combination that will work. Understand, right? So importantly, we have these 4 points for the data warehouse, like subject oriented, time variant, non-volatile, and integrated. Okay. So as I said, subject oriented is nothing but collection of all the applications. So this is subject oriented. So we have collection of all the applications data in one single database that is called as subject oriented. And time variant, as I said, this is also similar to historical data, where we have like some good number of data. It's not like 30 days, right? So it's not like 30 to 90 days of data, or 1 month or 1 week of data, something like that. Okay, understand, right? OLTP systems functionalities to basically it will saves maximum 30 to 90 days of data. Okay, but in general, data warehouse will store all the historical data. So basically, when you look into your real-time, some of the real-time projects, at least they will maintain 5 years of data, 10 years of data. They might have a lot of information, but they will restrict. Even though we have historical data, let's say I worked on Avon project. Okay, Avon Cosmetics, you might aware of, right? Avon. Every time they will load, they will consider last 10 years of data for the analytics. Understand, right? So they'll consider only 10 years of data. So they will apply the filter in the if they have some tables, and if they create any views, I'll tell you how to create I mean, in the database level, they will write a select query, and they will restrict the data, or even in the Tableau level, like we are going to apply the filter to get only like 10 years of data. Okay, so we may have 100 years of data, but we are not going to and do some analytics using 100 years of data, because of the huge volume of data. We might face a lot of issues. Understand, right? So even though historical data is fine, but we don't consider all the historical data, right? Like 100 years of data to handle is very huge. So it's very difficult to handle 100 years of data or 50 years of data. So recent analysis, that is what, past 5 years, past 10 years. So maximum we can handle. Clear all? Non-volatile,
Yes.
yeah. Non-volatile is something like a permissions, okay? Like on top of data warehouse, we have access in general, but basically we don't have an access to insert the data, update as a reporting person, okay? We don't have access to all of this. So we just have access to the select statement. So we have access to databases, remember that, but we'll have access only for the select statement. If required, let's say if you want to do any of the modification, if required, for sure we have to um, remember that we have to go for we have to ask the database DBA team to provide the permissions. So once they provide the permission, once we grant the permission, like we can do the other operations as well, like update or delete. But generally they don't provide these, like updation, deletion, insertion for the other developers, like report or BI users. Okay, so this is purely like restriction, security kind of a thing. We don't have access to something like selection, like we don't have access to other create or update or delete, something like that. I have a COVID-19 data. COVID-19. So one of the example I have showed a COVID-19 dashboard, right? So let me check on that. Desktop documents. My Tableau repository. Let me check on no, not this. I have this data actually, so but I'm not sure where it got saved. If I know the file name, right, so that I'll extract. I mean, I can get that particular naming convention of the file. Not this one. This is the actual COVID WHO dashboard. You can see, right? So this is the data I have worked on. So this is the actual COVID-19 dashboard I have showed you. But when I search, I'm unable to get this actually. I think COVID-19 dashboard last modified. I think this is different. So let me open this. Because I have seen some real-time data there, and you can also check the format of the data. That's the reason I just want to showcase. Give me a couple of minutes. Yeah, this is the data. Okay, this is the data I'm talking about. Let me see COVID-19 vaccine, United States, COVID-19 cases. This is the data I'm talking about. Okay, I can get this data. Okay, let me do this. So I need to know the location. Okay. United States COVID-19 cases. Let me search. Okay. Yeah, this one. Understand, right? This is the file I got actually. So let me open. Okay, let's talk about this. Okay, I'll showcase. So when you look into this data, so this total cases, confirmed cases, some probability, new case. Okay, there are different. Actually, we have different columns. Okay. Importantly, I just we discussed about the formatting, right? Let's concentrate on this. Okay. It might get I have wasted some time, I understand, but so as I said, we have extraction, transformation, loading. But when I load the data into Tableau, I didn't face any issues, okay, with the date format. One of the date format, I'll showcase that. So we have one of the date field, which is this is the real-time data, okay? When you look into this submission date, you can see, do we have the proper format? When you look into the submission date, do we have the proper format? So for first 4 records, you have hyphen 8 hyphen 12 hyphen, right? Even do we have 7416? I'm not sure which is month and which is year, which is day. Clear? Everything is under 12. Okay, I do feel that is the issue. Now I understand why this format had been lost actually. You can see here, right? So for 08/12/2021, okay, 08/12/2021, this is the date format. So other than say 06/25, so this is month, this is day, correct? But
Yes.
before 12, right, you can see hyphen is used to work, but more than 12 date, by default, I think the date format is considering the slash. So if you look into any date, the slash, right? Now I understand. I think it's a system fault. It's not the manual fault. So when I look into the data, So wherever you have this kind of format, the date must be less than 12. So here 12, not more than 12. But here, when you see this format, the date must be greater than 12. You can see every date is greater than 12. 27, 14, 23, 20, 19, 29, 21. Okay, I think now I understand. So when you have two different formats of date, okay, the ETL team has to do some formatting actually. Okay, they have to format the data. So that is what one of the example, like I just want to showcase. Hey, sometimes you have to format the data. The best example is this one. If the submission date is something like this, okay, then we have to go for the format. So sometimes we don't understand, like this is okay, like still this is fine, but let's say if you're not aware of this is DD mm, or this is date for sure, this is DD, but in this case we are not aware of what is what is DD, right? It might be DD, it might be or it might be it might be DD, correct? We are not exactly sure. So that's the issue. Like we might have proper formatting of the data. So sometimes we may have like unstructured data as well. Okay. When you look into this data, you can see, so created it 812, and we don't have proper formatting of data. That's the reason we are getting some dates in the slash and some dates in hyphen. Okay, that's fine. Understand, right? So that is the reason why I just want to showcase the example. Okay, I'll come back to this. Anyhow, I'll give you an assignment, or I'll tell you how to develop these kind of dashboards, some real-time data, and we can also go through some of the like very good visualizations. Okay. So I hope you understand. This is very important actually. The data warehouse basics, because this is a core part actually to understand the terminology.
I have a question.
Sure.
Yeah, so when it happens like that, how would you format the dates so that you know that the DD and the are on the same, you know?
Yeah, what I mean to say is Tableau is more flexible. Okay. So even though the submission date I connected right here, this is the data we connected. Okay. I didn't done any modification. So, but when you double click and when you pull this particular data, we have done any formatting. Okay. You are getting the proper formatted data, I can say. Understand, right?
Yeah.
Tableau is considering one single format and you are getting proper data. Understand, right? So that is one point. If you, and even Tableau is more flexible with the functions. Okay, let me tell you why I have double click and place this particular column is, whenever you are going to drag and drop any date field in Tableau, this will give you the high level data, higher level aggregation. What is the higher level date? Year. You'll get year of submission date. I have 2 years of data, 2020 and 2021. And we have a flexibility to drill down to quarter level, to drill down to month level, to drill down to day level. So this is a complete default functionality. We don't have year field. You can see, you can search in the database. Do we have year field? No. But one of the advantage in Tableau is like with the date, if the data type is date, okay. So whenever you are going to drag and drop any of the date, like we have created it, this is the date. This is also date format, but we have date and time. Understand, right? We have date and time. And let me do this. But the data type they considered as a string. Let me try to apply date and time if that works fine or not. Okay. I'm converting the data type from string to date and time. Okay. Sometimes it won't convert properly. We'll get null values. Sometimes this will work. Let's wait. Okay. Perfect. It's working fine. You can see. Understand, right? So I got this date and time format. Now let me drag and drop. Still I'm getting year of created date. Now because of the date and time format, if the data type is date and time, I'm able to see year of the created date. If I'm not going to convert into date and time, if it is a string data type, if you drag and drop, you'll get only the regular dates, not year of created date. This is the best example. You understand, right?
Yep.
Clear all? Now you can see the data type is just a string. It is initially Tableau is considering this data type as a string because I'm going to tell why it is considered as a string, because it's not consistent. You can see this data type, you can see this format is different and this format is different. This is proper date and time format. This is not proper date and time format, correct? But this is proper date and time format. This one is a proper date and time, correct? Clear all? The red color one is not the proper date and time. That's the reason Tableau didn't identify it straight away. When you load the data, it is not identified as a date and time format. But as a developer, I can understand when I look into the data, okay, this might be the date and time. Why can't we try to convert into date and time? And it is working fine. You can see this proper formatting, like the format is pretty much like you can see everything. Initially it got it, we have slash, I think, right? Hyphen. You can see the format is different. But when you convert the data type into date and time, you can see the proper date and time format. So that was the advantage with Tableau. Even I'm going to tell you the functions. Okay. Even you can convert this created date into, we have date and time, right? Let's convert into date. Clear all? Now you can see we have only date format. Similar to submission date, we have created. We have created it and we have submission date, which is both are data type, both data type is date. But the actual data type of created it is date and time. Perfect. We can do that. We have that flexibility. And even as you asked, like with the date, if you want to go for, as I said, the integration, as I said, the integrated, we have the day level, the lowest level of granularity. As I said, if you want to go for higher level data, even Tableau can handle this. Okay. Even we can create higher level dimensions. Like, let me create a simple calculation field. Like, so I'm going to use year function, year of submission date. So I will create a field called as year. Default, this comes under measure because of the integer format. But remember this, you have to convert into dimension. Just drag and drop into here. Anyhow, I'm going to explain one more time. Understand, right? For the first time, it will convert into measure. You have to drag and drop into dimension. Double click, you can see 2020 and 2021, and the 2020 total number of confirmed cases and 2021 total number of confirmed cases. This is the total cases. Clear? In the database level, we don't have year field, but we created year. Understand, right? Even we can create month. We have month function, submission date. Generally, we'll get month number, but even we can create month name. Actually, I'll showcase that. This is monthly cases. 2020 January, February, March. Understand, right? So monthly split. Clear all? So if you understand the data, that is what I'm talking about. If you understand the data, anyhow, Tableau will identify the data type. So this is the early stage I can talk about these data types because we are not into Tableau. We are discussing in the basics of data warehouse. But when you understand the data, you can play with the data. So you can create you can create your own calculations. As I created year, month, right? You can create any of the calculations. We have that kind of flexibility in Tableau. We have a lot of functions. Got it, right?
So when you are looking at the data and the dates are all messed up, you can still transport it into Tableau and then align it all, change it to what you like because of the data types. Is that what you mean?
Yes. Even though there are few things which are not aligned in the database level or in the backend database, we can do some set of formatting and I mean the format and few calculations. Even we don't have year, quarter, month fields, we can also create those calculations within Tableau. That is also possible.
Okay.
We don't want to depend on every time on the database side. Let's say if we don't have year field, and we can also ask them, hey, we don't have a year column. Okay. But generally, like we have a capability, like Tableau have a capability where you can create year, quarter, month, week. I'll showcase each and every function. So we have that flexibility. And even we are not facing any performance issue, right? I created year, I created month level data, and we are getting, it's pretty fast. Clear all? Any questions? That is what you can see here. We already have a day level or a regular date format, but most of the cases we are going to see the data on a higher level, like day or month or quarter or year, right? So if you want to see year level cases, this is what the highest level, year wise total number of cases. Okay, let me create a, if you want to go for instead of year, or still we can do that, but let me use submission date. Okay, the date format. Now you can see I'm looking at the quarter level analysis, the quarterly total number of cases. Even I can drill down. So this is where the functionality, like this is at monthly. Okay, you can see the highest spike. Okay, so October 2021 have huge number of cases. Anyhow, we don't have complete information, but still, when you consider 2020 and 2021 cases, October 2021 has more number of cases than the previous. I mean, understand, right? So you can see the number. So this is the axis and this is the date. So we have a drop line to understand better way what exactly the date. Okay, clear all? So this is what the basics, I mean, the OLTP versus OLAP. We are going to discuss about facts and dimensions. The terminology is like we have to understand what is fact and what is dimension. Okay. And then we'll go through fact table and dimension table. And we'll see like in the next class, we'll go for the data modeling concepts like star schema and snowflake schema. But let's understand, anyhow, I open Tableau, right? Let's understand what actually fact and what is dimension. Let me create a new Tableau workbook. So So when you load the data, right? Let's understand, please. Okay. When you connect to any of the database, when you load the data, I just pull one table. Anyhow, I'm going to explain all these points. When you look into this, like I select a region, I selected segment. I'm using control button. I selected sales and I selected profit. Do we have any difference here between these selection? Hello, you there, right? So let's understand this way in the color differentiation. Region and segment are in blue color, right? And when you see sales and profit, which are in green color, understand? Before 2020 version, we have a proper naming convention called as measures. You have a line separation. You can see probably you can see this line. There is a line here between here, right? There is a line separation here. So before 2020 version, they used to give, here we have tables, but they used to give a proper naming convention called as dimensions and measures. So we do called as dimensions. The blue colored one are all dimensions. Okay. So this is the dimension, or let me drop any of the column. Whenever I'm going to drop any of the column right here, you can see a line separation and it's showing that above all are dimensions and below all are measures, correct? Understand, right? So we have a concept called as dimensions and measures. Okay. But I'm going to explain what actually dimension. But in the data warehouse level, the terminology is fact. But in Tableau, we are going to use the same naming convention as measures. This one, these are all measures. So I'll explain each and every point. Let's understand this here. What actually fact? Okay, this is the data warehouse terminology. What is meant by fact? A fact is a numerical value. A fact is a numerical value which can be aggregated and which impacts on the business. The fact is a numerical value which can be aggregated and which impacts on the business. Okay, which impact on the business. But generally, you can tell that a fact is a numerical value which can be aggregated. That is a definition. This is the additional point I'm going to use. I'll tell you what actually the impact on the business. So example for facts. Example for facts like sales, profit, discount, quantity, salary, account balance, like subject marks. There are a lot of examples actually. Okay. I hope you got these fact examples, right? So sales, profit, discount, quantity, salary, subject marks, account balance, and subject marks. Okay. The fact is a numerical value. You know, the perfect example, you can see the sales. And what is the data type here? Number is a numerical value. But every numerical value is not a fact. Okay, let's understand that way. Every numerical value is not a fact. Okay. Do you know what are aggregate functions?
No.
Anyone? Just give it a try. What are all?
I didn't understand. Any numerical value is not a fact.
Oh, great. I'll come back to that point, please.
Okay.
I'll give you some examples, but yeah, I'll come back to that for sure. Any idea about aggregate functions? No. Okay. So no worries. As I said, I'm going to explain from scratch. But let's understand in Tableau. Let's consider this is a fact, okay? Sales or profit or quantity or discount, okay? So let's say we have region wise, have a region dimension. Can you see what is here? Like what actually the naming convention? Sales, correct? Okay. Whenever you're going to use this sales or any of the measure, whenever you're going to use, you can double click or even you can drag and drop into columns or rows. Okay. But what you're getting, you can see here. What you can see here?
The green.
Yeah. What is the text?
Sum.
Sum of sales, correct?
Oh, yeah. Sum.
Perfect. You're getting sum of sales. You know, salary, average salary, the terminology we used to say, hey, what is your average salary? Correct. On an average. What is the maximum salary you're getting? What is the minimum salary you're getting? Okay. So these are the aggregate functions, sum, average, importantly, minimum, maximum. These are aggregate functions. Understand, right? So
Okay.
a fact is a numerical value and I'm able to aggregate. I'm able to do some aggregation, which is sum of sales. Without aggregation, we don't prefer without aggregation. Or let me go for the text instead of any of the visualization. So we can say sum of sales. But interestingly, Tableau has a functionality to not to perform an aggregation. Okay. If you don't want to perform aggregation, yes, still that is possible. In analysis, you can say aggregate measures, correct? Yeah, I'm going in a detail level, okay, detail explanation so that probably you at least you'll get a few points. That helps for sure. But when you look into this Tableau level aggregate measures, if I'm not going to, let's remove this. Let's unselect this aggregate measure. When I remove aggregate measures, or let's understand this way, go back. Let's double click on sum of sales. You're getting sales, right? Sum of sales. Correct? Whenever I'm going to unselect this, what will happen? See, you're getting sales, not sum of sales. Correct? What I've done is, hey, don't perform any aggregation. Okay, don't aggregate the data. So that means we are able to see all the individual records. It's not performing any aggregation at region level. Okay, for central, whatever the records we have, we are getting all the individual level of granularity. So even you can see here for east, south, and west. But I want to know the total sales for west, total sales for south. That is the reason why default functionality is, hey, aggregate the measure. Aggregate the measure. This is what the total sales. But what is the default aggregation? You're getting sum. If you want to convert into average, you can convert into average. This is the average sales. On an average, this is the number. Let's say, hey, I want to know what is the max of sales. This is the maximum sales across individual region. I want to know what is the minimum sales. This is the minimum sales, 0.4544, right? I hope you understand the aggregation. So the default aggregation is sum, and I'll tell you all these points, like when you double click why we are getting sum, when you double click on profit, default we are getting sum of profit, why we are not getting average of profit as a default, correct? You can ask, right? Why only sum as a default? There are some default options, default properties. We can see aggregation. What is the default aggregation they selected?
Sum of.
Sum, correct? For sales, for all the measures, the default property, the default aggregation is sum. Let's say if I'm going to change the default aggregation for sales is average, I change to average. Now when you double click, what you are going to get is that sum of profit, sum of sales, or average of sales?
Sum of sales.
Okay, let's see. You can see average of sales, because as I said, right, even though it's a wrong answer, but that's not an issue. The at least understanding is important. Got it? So I selected average in the default properties. Now you can see when you double click, you can able to see average of sales. Hope you understand, right? But the aggregation is important. Aggregation is important. So I'll come back to the statement, whatever I have, the statement I have given, right? So we have facts. These are the examples where we have a lot of facts, actually, different naming conventions, but this is the easiest way to understand, remember those naming convention. So what are all the aggregate functions you are aware of? Sum,
Average.
minimum, maximum. Any questions so far? Now my statement is every numerical value is not a fact. Okay. I'm going to give a simple examples. I'm going to give you some of the column names, and you have to tell me whether it is a fact or non-fact. Okay, just a guess. Okay, you don't worry which if it is wrong or right. Correct. Customer ID, employee ID, phone number. Okay. Tell me whether this is a fact, or we can also call as dimension, or non-fact. Fact or dimension. Is day is a fact or dimension?
Fact.
Day is a fact or dimension. You said fact, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So whatever the answers I'm going to get right, I'll use those. I'll text here. Okay. If you answer two, fact and dimension, I'm going to answer. I'm going to type in fact and dimension. Then we'll discuss on those columns. Year.
Fact.
Year is also fact. Okay. Customer ID.
Dimension. Oh,
Fact.
fact.
No, no, don't worry about whatever you are thinking. You can just answer. Okay, it might be dimensional fact.
Customer ID is a numeric value, so it's a fact.
Okay. Employee ID.
Fact.
Fact.
Phone number.
Fact.
Perfect. Sales.
Fact.
Sales, we are discussing on sales, profit, quantity, everything is fact. Account number,
Dimension.
Account number is fact.
I see two answers. Okay, so no worries. Probably customer ID is also fact. You think about that. Okay. Can we add, let's say there are a couple of answers. Can we add account number 1? Let's say some customer account number. Can we add 2 account numbers? Account number 1, account number 2. Can we add 2 account numbers? And whatever
Yeah.
the output, right? Whatever the desired output, can we achieve anything by adding account numbers?
No.
Clear all? I hope you understand the point. Can we perform a simple addition of account number 1 plus account number 2 or account number 3 plus something like that? Can we perform a simple aggregation on top of account numbers?
No.
You can.
Let's say there is a customer, let's say there are few customers. Are we going to add any of the account numbers? Is there any business criteria or any idea that we are going to add account numbers in general? We can add, I'm not saying we cannot add, but we can add, but are we going to get any of the result which helpful for the business?
No.
Ramesh, it seems like I don't get your point. Can you repeat again?
Okay,
Please.
in place of account number, can you add phone number? Are we going to add phone numbers? Let's say phone number 1 plus phone number 2.
No,
Let's
we
say
can't.
we are not going to add in general,
No,
right?
we can't. Yeah.
But we can add in general. We can perform addition, but we are not going to add in general. Correct?
Okay.
Yeah.
You understand the point, right? We can able to add this one plus this one. We are going to get output. But in general, in real life, we are not going to add 4 numbers because we'll get some number. But what is the use of that number? Nothing, right? We are not going to get anything with that result. Correct?
Yeah.
The same with account number. Are we going to add account numbers?
No.
Nope.
Sure, right? We are not going to add any account numbers because we nothing to do with account numbers. I mean,
Yeah.
addition of account numbers. Perfect. Can we, let's say we have employee ID data and employee name, let's say 100, 101, 102, 103, and some A, B, C, D. I know we can for employee names, proper naming convention, but because of lack of time, yeah. This is the employee ID, okay?
Mhm.
Can we add employee IDs?
No.
No.
So when you add, what you gonna get? Is it gonna impact the business?
Nothing to do,
Good
right?
question.
Yeah, nothing.
Yeah.
Perfect. Excellent. Same way, we are not going to add customer IDs as well, correct?
Yeah.
Although employee ID, customer ID is a numerical value, we do call it as dimension, not a fact. Okay. Even day is also a dimension. Year is also a dimension. Only sales is a fact. And one good point is you were straight away, you're concentrating on the numerical value and fact. If it is a number, you thought that it's a fact. That's a good point, actually. Now you have to learn Yes, it's a numerical value, but we have to think about whether it is going to perform an aggregation or not, or it is going to impact the business or not. Let me give you a proper example. Okay. Customer ID is a numerical value. Employee ID is a numerical value, but we are not going to use sum of employee ID. The aggregation we are going to perform is count of distinct values. If you want to know total number of employees, we are going to use count of employee ID, because we need to get individual count. I don't want to add 100 plus 101 plus 102. It's not like sum. I just need a count, which is I want to know how many number of employees are working in the organization. I need an individual count, which is 4. But when you sum up, when you add, that's completely a different number, which is not useful for the business. Correct?
Yeah.
So that's the reason why I stated the point, like every numerical value is not a fact. Let me give you an example. I created year, right? Do you remember I created year? Even I'm going to create year. Interestingly, let me create year of order date. Whenever I'm going to create year field, this comes under measures. Whenever I'm going to double click, you'll get sum of year. This is the total summation, which is not correct. We are getting some different number. Okay. As I say, default, there are cases when you create any calculation field, default, it comes under measures. But as I said, year is a dimension. Okay. Year is a dimension. So when you to convert into dimension, right click, convert to discrete or convert to dimension. You can see, I'll tell you what actually discrete, but you have convert to dimension. You can see it converted into dimension. And when you place year into rows, we are getting proper data, 2019, 2020, 21, and 22, correct? Understand, right?
Yeah. So what is the ABC next to it?
ABC is like a default, automatically we are getting some text, okay? But when you double click on any measure, you'll get that number here, the sales.
Okay.
Sales.
Okay.
Okay. I hope you understand, but let me give you more clarification on the impacts on the business. So you have phone number, or let me explain this example, account number. Account number is important for sure. When you join in any of the organization, you're going to get salary using account numbers. Account number is important, but I used to explain the same concept before COVID-19 as well. But because of COVID-19, this statement got, proved actually. The example is, when you join in any organization, let's say in 2020, before COVID-19, I joined in the organization, and because of COVID-19, there are a lot of impact in the business, right? We already saw that all the retail and almost all the business got impacted. Let's say you joined in an organization and you didn't get any salary. Okay. Try to understand this. You have account number, but no salary. You will wait for another month. Understand, right? You didn't get any salary. I mean, all the employees who are working for that organization, they didn't get any salary for that month. They waited for the next month, no salary, and a lot of buzz on COVID-19 cases, and yeah, you saw like organizations are going to they're not going to pay the salary at least like 3-4 months, and even they're going to shut down the stores and all the business. And what we are thinking that, okay, this organization is not going to provide salary, better to leave this organization and we can look for a different job, correct? Because of COVID-19, the company is in huge loss, and most of the employees will leave the company. They look for other opportunities, correct?
Yeah, work perfectly.
Understand, right?
Mhm.
So if there is no salary, there is impact in the business. You have account number. I'm not saying account number is not important, but you have account number. But because of salary, the business is going to impact for sure. If the employees will leave the company, and even there is an impact of the business because of COVID-19 or COVID cases, and you don't get any productivity from the business from the employees as well. So salary is going to impact the business. So that is what salary is a fact. Understand, right? Salary is going to impact the business, not account number. You have a phone number, you have a SIM card, right? You have a SIM card where you have to recharge. Let's say in different countries, let's say in India, there are a lot of vendors like the SIM card providers, the network providers. They used to come up with new network, and they used to provide some offers, 1 month free calling, 1 month free data. So most of the people used to take these new SIM cards, and they used to use that particular SIM card for 1 month, and they will throw it away. Okay, you understand, right? So after 1 month, they are not going to recharge because it's only a free SIM, right?
Yeah.
If they are not going to recharge, if they're not going to extend this usage of the SIM cards, there is a loss in the business. To attract the customers, you are providing some free SIMs. But if the same people, if the same persons, I mean, the people who are not able to recharge and they're not going to use these SIM cards, they don't get much business. So that is what the point. So dimensions are important, but fact is very important. Fact plays a major role, because without measures, fact, you can see the impact. Salary is going to impact the business. That is what my point. Okay, clear all? So
Yeah.
number, account numbers, all these are numerical value. So that is what my statement. Every numerical value is not a fact, but fact must be number format or numerical value. I hope you understand this. So in general, in Tableau, we are going to call it as measures. Okay. In general, in Tableau, we are going to call these or measures. Perfect. So that is what we are calling as measures, right? So we call this sales as a measures. Okay. Sales, profit, discount, quantity, all this called as measures. Even we do call it as KPIs. What actually KPI? KPI is it's a business terminology. Okay. Don't worry about this. What is KPI? Any idea on KPIs, naming convention? Key performance indicator. Okay. Key measures. So we may have a lot of measures. Let's say sales is a key measure. Okay. So this is sum of sales. Okay. KPIs are nothing but important measures, important columns. So we may have a lot of measures, but we are not going to call all the measures as KPIs, key performance indicators, key measures. Okay. So what are all the key metrics, key measures? We do call that as KPIs. Understand, right? So sometimes in interviews, or sometimes in, like in a client discussions, hey, what are your KPIs you have worked on? What are your key performance indicators? Or what are your KPIs you have in your project? They'll ask them some key measures. Let's say you worked on a sample superstore. What are all the measures you worked on? You can tell that, hey, we have sales, profit, discount, and quantity. let's say you are going to put a project, right? In general, in resumes, right? You work for, let's say, Adidas, or you work for Bank of America, right? So there you have to tell some of the examples of the measure names or measure values. Understand, right? Let's say here, when you understand, when you look into this Wikipedia Walmart, right? Or any of the Wikipedia for organizations, these are the key KPIs. You can see when you look into the business, revenue is also a KPI. Operating income is a KPI. Net income is a KPI, right? Understand, right? Total equity, total assets. These are key KPIs, which are very important for the business, right? These numbers, correct?
Yep.
I hope you understand. I'm going to give a lot of examples actually, but yeah. So impact on the business is an additional statement. So every numerical value is not a fact. Okay. Going forward, when you look into the data, you'll understand. Let's say we have region, right? We have order date, order ID, order date, country, city, right? Segment, year, month. All these are dimensions. Okay. So measures, we can also call it as measures in Tableau, but in data warehouse, we do call it as facts. But we have a concept called as dimensions. What actually dimensions? Dimensions are nothing but which gives context to the fact, which gives meaningful information to the fact. I'll give you a simple example. Let's say I'm going to ask a simple question that, hey, this is salary 40K. Salary 40K. Do you have any questions on the salary 40K? If someone say, hey, salary 40K, is that the complete sentence?
No.
What are all the questions we do get?
Monthly,
Then
yearly.
No, first point, like, yeah, that's a good point. Whose salary it is? Understand, right?
customer service.
In general, whose salary, correct? If you are going to display only salary 40K, it's not a complete sentence. We'll ask like, hey, whose salary it is, right? Then you can say like, hey, John's salary is 40K. Then you can say, you'll have few more questions like, is that yearly or is that monthly, correct?
Yeah.
So my point here is, without a dimension, whenever you're going to drop only measure, or let me display only the measure value, what you're getting, it's total sales. Without any dimension, you'll get grand total. Yes, it is important. I can say like, okay, total sales is important. But without any dimension, if you're going to display only total sales, which doesn't make sense. Let's say if you are going to use region, hey, this is what region wise sales, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And let's say in place of region, if I'm going to use product, hey, this is what individual product wise sales, and even I can sort. Understand, right? So this is what the product name, and this is the total sales. Canon image. So I'm just changing the dimension. That means dimensions. Basically, now I dropped customer, so I can see customer by sales. So dimensions are nothing but which gives context to the fact. Okay.
Right.
Example for dimensions. Example for dimensions. Let me tell you like customer ID,
Customer name,
customer address, and even
Region.
customer phone number, And yeah, region, let me come back to this, something like country, region, state, city, postal code, correct? Something like this is a geographical hierarchy. Let's say product information like items or product ID. Subcategory, year, quarter, month, week, day. These are all the examples for dimensions. Okay. But we may have ID columns. That's where we got confusion, right? We have description columns. We thought employee ID, customer ID as a fact, but those are ID columns. What is the advantage of ID columns? I'm going to explain in the next class. Okay. What is the advantage of ID columns? ID columns, right, helps for establishing relationships, between the tables. So I mean, I'll come back to that. So the best example is like, I'll go back to data source. I dropped only orders table, right? But in the people table, there is information called as regional manager. I have a region, and every region there is a manager, correct? But if I want to get that regional manager information, so this is a region, but I don't have regional manager in this database. So you can see only region, correct? But if I want to get regional manager information, I have to use this table as well, correct? So this is what we are going to discuss in the next class, because whenever I'm going to drop these two tables, what is the common column you're getting? Between these two tables, the common column is region, the join. Okay, in between these two tables, I'm able to join by using region, and I have a regional manager. When you drop regional manager, you can see you're getting proper data. For central, he's the manager. For east, he's the manager. For south and west. Or even I have other example as well, like not only this, you can double click. I'm going to explain in detail. You can double click, and this is what the proper physical data modeling. When you drop the table, you can see the proper join here. What is the common column we are getting here between these two tables? Region, right? And what is the join we are getting? Inner join, correct?
Yeah.
I will explain in detail. So we'll work on this data modeling part in the next class. Okay, no worries. That is very, very important. I hope you understand, but dimensions, which gives context to the fact. Basically, we have, these are the examples for dimensions, and these are facts. Like, as I said, fact is a numerical value which can be aggregated and which impacts the business. So give me some time. I'll provide the access to the videos, and I'll tell you how to access. But I'll provide access to your Gmail IDs. I'll tell you like the process, so we'll work on it. Okay.
Okay.
Probably in 3 hours maximum, I'll provide the access for those yesterday's, the previous class and this class.